All right, it's deciding time. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast, your weekly source for people taking video games too seriously. This week, we're going to be doing some Game of the Year kind of wrap-up stuff. Not the actual Game of the Year discussion. That's going to come next week, likely. For now, however, we are going to be talking about a few topics to wrap up the end of the year. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Dean Takahashi. Go ahead, say hi, Dean.
Hello.
And my cohort and subordinate, Mike Minotti.
Why do you keep calling me that? That's not true.
Because if I keep saying it long enough, it's going to be true.
And then that is how things work. I believe that.
Yeah,
hey, did you see my Mega Man custom controller that I got from Microsoft?
That is a handsome controller. What did you order that yourself? Like, what happened there?
What is Mega Man?
That was one of my birthday gifts was like a voucher to do it.
That is cool. I really like that color scheme. Oh,
thank you.
The thumbsticks. Why are they red?
He has some red accents.
Okay.
On his helmet, and his little circular thing on the helmet, and in the Mega Buster on his shoe and like on his feet. If you can when he has them raised up, there's some red accents there. So there's a little bit of red in Mega Man. Yeah, just a bit. But I had to get that in there.
Well, that is cool. I really like doing that. The Xbox Design Lab thing for my controller.
Super fun.
Yeah, I did Michigan colors for Michigan University. And it worked really well. You're right. It's super fun. I was really happy when I got
the only kind of downside is that, when I play my Xbox One, I want to use the Elite, not the super cool color one.
I know the S one though is pretty good in some ways that the Elite was. Like the sticks are I think even better in terms of resistance than the Elite. Although maybe they've changed the Elite and now they're using those sticks, but that's a topic for another time.
But I'll probably use this. Maybe I'll use this as my PC gaming controller for.
Yeah, I have my Michigan one sitting now in the family room for controlling the Xbox, and then the Elite is kind of put away until I want to use it because my wife also uses the Xbox to watch TV and stuff. But she's an Ohio State fan, so she won't touch the Michigan controller. So I actually have to have two sitting out. So yeah. All right. We don't have a ton of time, and we got a couple of topics today, so we're going to jump into them. We're going to be talking about the defining gaming trends of the year, the top mobile games, and the best new gaming universe. Now, I'll explain what each of those mean as we get into them. But before we do that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. You can get more of us on GamesBeat.com. Email the podcast at games plus, that's the plus sign, podcast at VentureBeat.com. And finally, if you like what you're listening to, please subscribe. We're on all the podcatchers. We're on anywhere where you catch a pod. You can catch us there.
Catch all the pods.
Catch every pod. Mostly ours. Most. Yes, ours the most.
Yes.
Put ours in your starting rotation of your pod fighting, whenever you go out and fight pods. And while you're on iTunes, leave us a review. It helps people find the show. Okay, guys. Normally we would do a little bit of intro here where we talk to each other a little bit more. I do want to know more about that controller. I want to see it more, but we're going to have to jump right into this because we're limited on time. Dean's going to get out of here in about 45 minutes. So we should jump into the first thing that I want to talk about. And this is going to be part of our GamesBeat Rewind feature. And this first topic is 2016 was the year of blank. Now, I want to fill in that blank. And I think that we're going to have to come up with a few here, maybe come up with a list of stuff, and then just pick one to decide what 2016 was the year of in terms of gaming. So do you guys have anything you want to start with here? Because if not, I've got a couple that I'm ready to suggest.
It's odd because I feel like we probably had these before, but it seemed like it was the year of first-person shooters again, right? Like so many of the good games, even games that you weren't expecting, like Doom, or out of nowhere, Blizzard makes the best team-based shooter ever, and then Titanfall 2 really good, best
third-person shooters in there too, right?
Yeah. Well, Uncharted for sure. Then what else besides that?
I mean, Gears of War 4 was
Gears of War.
Solid Gears of War.
I guess you could just say shooters. And I mean, yeah, it's weird because none of them are necessarily, except for maybe Doom, you could argue, are breaking a lot of new ground, but just a lot of really good shooters this year.
They're just
even games that are not really shooters primarily are just sort of having just adding the shooting element or keeping the shooting element. Watch Dogs 2 has shooting and. Deus Ex Mankind Divided as well is more of a shooter than
Dishonored
it ever was.
But just the pure shooters, man, were pretty good this year. And like I kind of am usually of this mind, like I'm just tired of like a game that's just a pure shooter. Like I need more to that. And this year I was kind of proven wrong on that. A lot of the most fun games are just pretty simple. Like, hey, go shoot stuff. And
is this part of a bigger trend though? Maybe of the sort of like gelling of a bunch of different genres into like one mega genre, where Doom was definitely just a shooter, but it well, maybe Doom's a bad example, but like Titanfall, it feels like you could do anything. You're in mechs, you're running around, it's telling a story, it's doing all this other stuff, and it just feels like it's pulling elements from other game series and putting them into the shooter genre as like its main primary way of defining the game. But then it's plenty of other elements in there that still feel like, because I compared that game to like Super Mario Galaxy. Like the way it's designed is like it feels like one level after another. Yeah, it feels like a really good platformer at the same time.
It's sort of like some of these games are almost more like a combination of everything, right? Like open worlds, RPGs. Deus Ex is a combination of that. It's both a stealth game and a shooter offensive game as well.
See, I've kind of, I kind of almost have, like, maybe there is a bit of that going on, but I almost have this opposite feeling where the games I really liked were maybe a little bit more laser focused. I know what you're saying with Titanfall, but I would still say that's a pretty pure first-person shooter experience in a lot of ways.
I would actually, in the end, I would agree with you. I was just wondering if maybe that was happening, but I think no, you're right. Nah. This still feels like more a shooter thing than a combination of genres thing.
Right. In fact, I'm kind of glad that maybe not a whole lot, but it seems like there weren't quite as many open world like catch-all games this year. Like,
at least none that like stood out in the way these shooters are standing out.
No, it's not like we didn't have, like the one year it's like you have like Mad Max and the Assassin's Creed and the Batman, and they're all kind of doing a similar thing. And we definitely still had plenty like those open world games. Some of them were pretty good, but some of them kind of came and didn't make as big a splash as maybe people thought they would, like a Mafia 3, for instance, right? Like where some people liked it and talked about it a bit, but not a huge sales or critical success. And even Watch Dogs 2 kind of seems like it kind of came and went for a lot of people.
Right. And that's...
Mafia 3 had this sort of excellent narrative and story to go with it. But the open world maybe was too ambitious, and there seemed like so many things that were unfinished in the gameplay and the open world part of the game. And so, it seems like the developers who sort of bit off exactly what they could deliver were in much better positions. So like Overwatch or Titanfall 2, they're very focused games that don't try to do any kind of open world.
And Overwatch
doesn't even try a single player.
Right, and it's in like what it does is just like that, team-based gaming thing. It does so well, and it's just like polished ridiculously towards that one goal, and these characters and the animation and the scenery and the music, and it's like, oh wow, the production value is just through the roof. And it's an experience they probably couldn't have delivered if they tried to make like a more ambitious project than that. And I don't know if ambitious is the word, because Overwatch is plenty ambitious in its own way.
So we have shooters. Let's see some other topics. I thought maybe this might be the year of the mid-cycle console revision. We got PlayStation 4 Pro. Microsoft announced Scorpio. Nintendo is coming out with a Switch that I think they are very much going to embrace mid-cycle revisions, where they slowly update the innards in the way that like a phone does. They haven't confirmed that, but I feel like that seems pretty likely. Would you guys agree with that? Is it too early for that to be the trend this year?
I mean, it's definitely something that is happening. We don't know really too well yet how much people are taking. It's kind of like with VR too. I know this kind of thing. It's like it's a thing that happened in 2016. It's hard to tell if it's a thing that is like a trend, like at the start of something in any meaningful way.
I wouldn't know if I would say, and this is going to be like our test. I wouldn't say that 2016 was the year of the mid-cycle console revision. It definitely happened, like you said, but it's not a defining aspect of the year in gaming in 2016.
I think the console cycle sort of stays unchanged, but the tactic of using a mid-cycle change is something that the companies are still trying to use against each other. Like, I felt like the Wii sort of won the last generation until Microsoft introduced Kinect. And Kinect wasn't really that functional, but it just sort of was a tactic that was better than the Wii experience, and it blunted whatever progress Nintendo was making. And it seemed like the Wii sales sort of slowed down, allowing both Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 to start gaining ground on.
Yeah.
So
Dean, make sure you stay
like,
in one spot with the microphone.
Yeah. It seems like that's the same thing that's happening now with the PlayStation Pro and the PlayStation VR. They're trying to interrupt whatever progress the other guy is making.
Yeah, it's definitely similar. I would say that Kinect leans more towards like peripherals as disruption, and like PlayStation VR would fit in that and stuff. But in terms of like just upgrading like the hardware, like last generation, it was, you would add a bunch of hardware storage space and you would give it a cool paint job, and this would be the new Xbox 360 for this holiday. Now this year, this generation around, it doesn't seem like that strategy is enough. People aren't going to buy a new system just because it has a bigger hard drive. They can go out and attach a new hard drive themselves if they really want that. So for Sony and Microsoft's strategy is this beef up in power. Now, I would still wouldn't say, I think it's too early for that to really be the defining characteristic for this year. I wouldn't, especially not over shooters. I think shooters are still they're so everywhere. They are so ever present that it's hard to even recognize that it's a trend.
Where we thought that maybe that these shooters were dying down a little, if anything. Right. And then this year's like, oh, no, not at all.
Then there's the little thing that everybody seemed to steal from each other, the grappling hook, right?
Okay.
Maybe
so this is
the grappling hook.
So this is definitely Just Cause 3, and then Uncharted 4, and Titanfall 2.
I'll tell you what, Titanfall 2, I was surprised how quickly I unequipped that grappling hook.
Same here, me too.
Like,
that's almost the thing that makes me not want to give it to the grappling hook, is because I was like, oh man, a grappling hook in Titanfall 2, that's all I'm ever going to use. I don't need anything else. And then like immediately I switched to the stem from like Titanfall 1, and I've been using that ever since.
Easy like the knife. Also, didn't show up in the campaign, did it? The
Not that
hook.
I can remember.
Which is kind of
strange. If it did, it was very brief, but that's how the whole game is, where they just like have brief moments of gameplay snippets. The grappling hook was definitely one that I thought would be the trend this year, especially coming out of E3. Like it was like, oh man, all these games have the grappling hook, and that's cool. Grappling hooks are awesome. But I at the end I was just like, it's not the way that the bow and arrow felt that year that Tomb Raider came out, and all those other games came out with it.
Can it just still be the year of Luigi?
Yeah, you're right. It should. In our hearts, it is always the year of Luigi.
Right. That was a great year.
Do we want to talk at all about virtual reality? Is this the year of virtual reality?
No.
Or is it still too early, in the same way that's too early for mid-cycle console revisions?
Maybe a little less early.
It's just it's creeping forward and making good progress that way. Like I put Dead and Buried as one of my sort of alternate best games of the year, and I'll have a couple of VR games on my top 10. A couple. I've played even more VR than you have, Dean. So that makes sense. But yeah, even there, none are cracking the top 5. And when we do our collective GamesBeat Game of the Year discussion, I'm not going to push very hard for any VR game to be representative of our site as a top 10 game. Yeah. And then it reminds me though of the years like when I put one mobile game on my list, and that was a surprise. Right. Like I put Ridiculous Fishing on the list.
Yeah, but the difference here is that the mobile was so pervasive. It was everyone could get a free, was downloading free mobile games and things like that. And that wasn't. So it was easier to call it like the year of mobile gaming because everyone was playing it. The difference here is there's a couple of good games, like there were a couple of good mobile games, but no one's playing it because it's way too expensive. It's out of reach of most people. And until it kind of breaks through that barrier, I think that we probably I still wouldn't call 2016 the year of VR. Again, not over shooters at least.
Yeah, not yet.
So here's my big one.
The year of Pokemon Go, though.
I mean, is it, that was another one I want to bring up.
Gaming and augmented reality.
Maybe not but how about just Pokemon? Like, it felt really like a Pokemon year.
Pokemon Go was definitely the most exciting thing that was happening for a while, right? It was definitely the most like, hey, this is in the news. It's a really big deal. Mm-hmm. And that translated a little bit to when Sun and Moon came out, but like once Sun and Moon came out, you didn't really hear people talking about Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Well, I just it's
yeah,
different
but they
kind of
sold
thing because
they sold more than any other Pokemon title.
Yeah,
they had
it's the
they had a better start than other Pokemon. I think that's because of Pokemon Go. But again, I don't know if there's been a lot of carryover excitement about Sun
I don't know
Moon.
if that's how Pokemon. I don't know if that's how it would work though. I mean, it's not going to be a news story in the same way Pokemon Go is. But it's such a bigger, beefier game that people are just going to play it. And then they'll talk with their friends about it, or they have their forums, their text message groups, their Snapchats. I don't know what Snapchat is, but their Snapchats where they discuss Pokemon Go or Pokemon Sun and Moon with each other.
Snapchat. I can send you some snaps, Jeff.
Yeah, send me some snaps, Mike. Send me your snaps.
Send me some snaps of my Mega Man theme park and I almost called Roku's Tycoon Planet Coaster. It'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually, you should just live stream that. I would actually watch that. So, but I don't know. I think it was very much a Pokemon year, but most years are Pokemon years. Pokemon is always that popular. It just had that breakout thing with Pokemon Go in the summer,
right? And it was kind of
attention.
It was kind of insular, wasn't it? Maybe it affected Nintendo in a bit of a way, the way they got Mario Run out a little faster than maybe we thought.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's not like it affected the industry. We didn't even really see Pokemon Go clones like maybe you thought we would, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple, and more are coming. I'm sure more are coming very soon. But you're right. That would be more like an AR story. And I'm not going to make 2016 the year of AR just because of Pokemon Go. There's no way in hell. So that's like a different discussion entirely.
It is interesting to me that I think Pokemon Go is probably going to make more money this year than something like Titanfall 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's just
the biggest mobile game.
Reminder that when you go after 1 billion people, it's a possible audience. And
but the thing is that
payoff.
Titanfall 2 was still more of a sure thing for the return on investment that EA got from that than Pokemon Go ever was. I mean, clearly, there's a bigger chance to do really well with a smaller budget game on mobile, and this is a different topic again. But it's like there's like 3 or 4 or 5 games that are going to make $1 billion on mobile. And then there's a whole lot of other games that are going to make way less than that. It's a very top heavy industry. And that's not that much different from traditional gaming. But traditional game, you release a AAA game and you're going to get a return on that investment that it's going to be pretty sizable, more sizable than any mid-range mobile game.
And now, when I think of like the value that creates, like Supercell with 200 people was valued in a transaction at $10 billion. And Ubisoft with 10,000 people is valued in the stock market at $3.7 billion. It's like a crazy sort of mismatch.
Yeah. And in 2016 was a kind of a shift in that. But again, I just don't know if mobile is secure enough, like in terms of if a new developer were to come into the space with a really great idea, if they could succeed. And that makes me want to hesitate about naming anything in mobile as like the top trend of the year.
That figure that I just brought up, though, it causes me some worry about where the money is going to go. Like if you're making money, then more money goes in that direction. And if it seems like it's easier, to make money
this is the concern with Nintendo for sure. I think as someone who's a fan of Nintendo games, if they start seeing that they could spend $100,000 developing mobile games and they're going to get 20x the return on that in a couple of months, 20x might be conservative considering what they can do with mobile. You're right, they might start shifting their development resources to mobile, but I think that's also a 2017 story, and it's like right now it's like a concern. So getting back to this topic right now, I think that the big one that I want to discuss, and then we'll kind of have to decide, is loot boxes. Because I think it kind of covers a lot of these different topics that we have been talking about, where almost every major game in 2016 has some form of loot box. It's the reason that games like Overwatch and a bunch of others, a bunch of mobile games use loot boxes, why they make so much money. Even after like they charge $60 or $40 or whatever, and they were everywhere. I kind of feel like this is the year that developers decided, we haven't raised the price of a game in 10 years since 2005 or whenever the Xbox 360 came out. That went from $50 to $60. We have got to start, stealthily raising the price of games by increasing the average revenue we make per player And after struggling with DLC for years and putting a ton of resources into that for not a great return, here's this method that people are eating up. It's loot boxes with cosmetic items or, game crucial items. Doesn't matter. People are spending money, and some people are spending a ton of money on these things to really fund development, for years and years. Like, we probably won't get an Overwatch 2 because instead they'll have loot boxes.
Loot boxes.
I think there is like a kind of like a almost like a reaction that has happened here, and the $60 AAA game makers are looking at the mobile games with their whales, and the people who just spend like $1 million or so on being number one, or just whatever they can get. Special,
and that's you're not
they buy, right?
You're not like using a crazy number. There are people who spend $1 million or $2 million, like individuals who spend that much on a single video game on mobile.
Yeah,
like
we had
that has happened.
One of those guys, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and but I guess when the AAA companies look at that and they say, "Oh, we have whales as well, but we've only been charging them $60." And,
right.
Like, why don't we just come up with these things that maybe 1% of our audience is going to buy, but they're also going to pay a lot of money for these extras. And so, the deluxe editions, or unlocking a game 30 days early.
Right. That was the thing we saw.
These things are sort of ways that the game companies, the AAA game companies, are figuring out how to learn from another segment of games that's very successful. I think loot boxes were sort of one of the ways that they figured out. This is how we reward our high rollers.
Yeah. Mike, you have any thoughts on it?
I guess, me personally, I haven't, I mostly deal with it in Overwatch, which I play a lot. And it's actually a system I like a lot, in at least the way they handle it, right? Where it's just all cosmetic. You do earn some of them just by playing the game, not very often.
Right.
And
often enough. They even made it more often in our recent update.
Right. And it's definitely smart. I definitely kind of like it compared to what it was like 10 years ago, right? When what we always got were these map packs, and we were buying
Right.
We were just buying the new content when it came out, and it was just kind of annoying. Whereas now, with Overwatch and almost all these games now, the maps just kind of are released, right? And then they kind of are funding that with these loot boxes, and they have these very smart kind of holiday events, like the one going on in Overwatch right now, where not only is it like encouraging people to just play the game and earn loot boxes in the game,
Right. But I might spend money.
Right.
I've already spent money.
I will spend money.
I'm going to, yeah. Like, especially if I don't get a couple of those skins, I'm going to spend money.
And it's interesting because if I have never ever paid any money on any of that, my gameplay experience would be exactly the same.
Right.
I would just be wearing a different outfit, and for some reason, I put value in that, and it's fine, and I'm not mad at anyone about it. It's like, hey, that's kind of neat. I think it's $10, whatever.
What you're describing is, I think they figured it out. I think we've crossed the Rubicon. Before, had they tried this 3 or 4 years ago, even with just cosmetics, I think a lot of people might have been more upset than we are. I think the consumers are ready, and developers have figured out the right business model for both on free-to-play on mobile, free-to-play on console and PC, and premium price games, where they see that there's an audience of people that want to spend way more money than previously they had the power to. Like Dean was saying, like they have whales, but they were only charging them $60. And the answer right now is they cannot raise the price of games from $60 to $70 or $80. Consumers would flip out. Like, I mean, consumers are way too loud right now. They have way too much power on Reddit and on Twitter, Facebook. The comment sections for those things, if they were to try to do something like that, would be brutal, and it would be a mess, and they'd probably have to roll it back. So the way that they can get through this is by these creative monetization methods that enable those whales to really just spend thousands of dollars over time if they want to, because there's enough of those that they can subsidize the rest of us.
Yeah, I think like Activision's a good example of that with Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and then putting a whole brand new game into it with Modern Warfare Remastered.
Yeah, Modern Warfare just got microtransactions, and I think that's the first time like a classic remaster, an HD upgrade or whatever it was, gets the monetization method, because they see that they need that in there if they're really going to justify putting this game out for their
shareholders. They have like zombies, so it's like 3 games in one.
Right. Yeah, Yeah, exactly, and that gives even more ways of monetizing. So I think loot boxes are is the best example of this creative monetization, and I think it is the epitome of like what we would hold up for like how they are making more money from games. So to me, that's the trend. But maybe it is just like we could call it creative monetization, but I'd rather just say loot boxes is the trend. But I guess that brings me back to you guys. Is it loot boxes or shooters? What was the bigger trend in 2016? And I feel like loot boxes kind of encompasses shooters a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, loot box is definitely a bit more of a new and unique thing to 2016, whereas shooters have been around before. It just happened to be a real good year for them. So yeah,
right.
Loot box sounds fun to me.
I feel like story-based shooters are really sort of a big trend as well, where the investment that goes into the storytelling side of the game is now on the level of bringing in Hollywood screenwriters and Mafia 3. So much of the game's focus there was in the main story and all of the twists that happened, and I feel like if there's any extra investment that's going into shooters now, it's on this front, because they're using that to keep the gamer longer, to keep us all engrossed, and to have us just play it a lot more than games that are just missing some of this. I mean, Overwatch is more like an exception to this, but all the other shooters that came out this year just have some really phenomenal storytelling that puts them up on a level that's more interesting than movies.
Yeah, and definitely. So I think what we would do here is, I'm pretty comfortable making loot boxes the trend of 2016. 2016 was the year of loot boxes, but when we write up the story, I want to have a runner-up, and I think it's going to be shooters with an emphasis, especially on.
Let's just say it was the year of Mike Naughty, as all years are.
Mike, it was going to be on my present to you. I was actually going to do that.
I knew it.
But you spoiled it now. Now I'm not going to get you anything. No. All right, guys, we're running out of time. We might actually only be able to do 2 topics this episode. So let's see. We're going to jump right into it. Let's do the top 5 mobile games of 2016.
Yeah, we need Dean for that one, because...
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm a slightly self-proclaimed mobile game. Not hater, but skeptic still,
yeah,
I would say.
I'm sure, you probably played at least one that's going to be on this list, I think.
I played some still, sure.
Right. I mean...
I can think of one that I played.
Well, I mean...
Well, I guess the question to me is there anything to talk about besides Clash Royale and Pokemon Go?
No,
Mario?
Yes, there are a couple.
Mario Run?
But hang on real quick. I want to make something clear here. This is going to be our top 5 mobile games in 2016. Mm-hmm. The difference here is it's not of 2016. I don't care if a game came out in 2015, because on mobile, games are living. They are always changing. The game that came out in 2014 has gotten so many updates, it's indistinguishable from that game in 2016. It might as well be a new game. So if there is a game and I'm looking at you, Mike, like Hearthstone, that you think should be on this list because it was one of the best mobile games in 2016, I would want it argued for and maybe have a spot.
You kind of brought that up, and it's interesting to me. Hearthstone is not a mobile game to me. I very rarely play it on my phone. When I do, it's kind of a strange instance. That's almost 99% of the time I play that game, it is a PC game to me.
And not even on your tablet or anything?
No,
okay.
Not even
all right.
then.
Well, then, I mean, it probably won't end up on this list then.
There it is. Sorry. There is its big
Jason
chance.
should have showed up.
It seems like its best form to me is on the tablet.
Yeah, I mean, but Mike plays it more than either of us, and I could see it I don't know. It was made by a PC developer, and I'm sure it's a great mobile version of that. But I could see
when I play it. I mean, I play it for kind of a while, so just to hold something that whole time, I don't know, if that makes any sense.
I think what's interesting also is that there are some games that are coming out that feel like they're not playable on a smartphone, but they are really great on a tablet. And I would
give some examples.
Dawn of Titans is a great example there. It's just like you cannot really just hit the right point on the touchscreen with just so many different things moving around on it. That it's just not playable on a iPhone 6. But it is very entertaining on a tablet. And the War Commander Rogue Assault game that just came out same kind of problem is that there's lots of things moving around on the screen. You have to hit one and then point it to something that you're going to attack.
Yeah, I mean maybe like the biggest phones, maybe like the biggest like iPhone and the biggest like Samsung Galaxy Note or something when they're not exploding. Maybe you could play it on there.
Yeah.
Because I don't get that why they would just make a game that kind of runs best on tablet, because tablets so
they tried, but graphically it's just such a start.
Okay, but I'm going to start putting some games on this list, and actually we could talk about them, and then I'll put them up here on the right hand side so people watching the video can see us discuss them as we go. But I think Pokemon Go. Let's put it up on there.
What
you guys think it? I mean, I understand a lot of people at the time, and they still would argue that it's not a very good video game. But I would disagree.
I mean, it was definitely a broken game a lot of the time.
Right, it's broken, yes. 100% with you. It was broken, but it was still fun, and it did what it was trying to do.
It was different. It actually created memories, right? Like, I did stuff with my friends in that game and the real world. It was a really exciting moment that it was a very unique thing.
Yeah, it created a change in behavior, getting people off the couch and
right.
into parks.
It is kind of a shame that I'm not sure if that's going to keep up, or like if next summer are we going to all be out with our phones again, or was that just kind of a one-time deal? I don't know.
Well, I think if they ever get this gigantic update out, then they've got a chance. But yeah, it seems like they're trickling it out.
Yeah.
Now, is it better or worse than Clash Royale?
I think it's better, but Clash Royale is not my thing.
I think it's better than Clash Royale as well. But
I think Clash Royale is actually a lot more sustaining purely on gameplay. I think your motivation to play Clash Royale is that I want to outwit somebody else in a game that has quite a few fun little tactical decisions to make.
It definitely
the motivation
had those
with
things.
Pokemon Go is to go out for a walk and to be productive while I'm walking.
I think what you're doing there is you're finding you're comparing a traditional gameplay mechanic that we all know, that's gameplay, against something that was a very new idea of what gameplay can be. Going out for a walk, that's kind of reductive. It's way more than that. You're going out for a walk to explore the world, to find these creatures, and then to battle these creatures against other people's creatures at gyms, and to discover new Pokestops in your area. And it's like a whole other idea of exploration that we haven't seen before, because it's an entirely new idea for a game. I mean, not considering Niantic's previous games, which were very similar, but it was so huge that it introduced it to so many more people, and it's such a great idea, a great wrapper of the Pokemon brand, that I think to me, it's more impressive and more fun than Clash Royale. And my criticisms of Clash Royale, while I like the game, it's very good. I see where the craft went. But Clash Royale, it's not necessarily always just outwitting your opponent. It's outwitting your opponent in the moment, and then 3 or 4 fights later, once you've unlocked all the packs you can unlock it for that moment, it is seeing how you absolutely need to spend money to continue moving up the path. And the game's just like, here are all the reasons you should be spending money on this game, because then you could have that, that unit that your opponent has. He keeps beating you with that, and every time you get high enough, you see that unit, and it keeps beating you over and over. You don't have that, and you could get it if you played this game nonstop all the time. You can pay us money right now.
I've been playing it the whole year, and I haven't spent any money. I'm actually perfectly happy going up against somebody who's kind of similar in ability to me. And I don't really care that I'm not really advancing that high, because every time I advance high, I get knocked back down by somebody.
Right.
And yet, I'm getting a lot of entertainment out of just playing in the sort of the band of players where I can be competitive without spending money.
Yeah, I wouldn't deny that at all. I would just say that for me, it was much more obvious the pain points that Clash Royale was putting into its game, or Supercell was putting into Clash Royale, than it was with Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go, obviously, it has its own, where it wants you to spend money, especially if you're a rural, I can't say that word, if you're out in the country and you don't have any Pokestops around your house.
I do think this is why Clash Royale monetizes so well, and it's going to generate more than $1.1 billion, just in the first 11 months of the year.
Yeah.
And I guess there are other examples out there, like Dawn of Titans. We've got someone who just reviewed it and found that it was really frustrating just to try to wait to get past all of the monetization walls, just by waiting out the building of buildings and things like that. I guess the game companies have to start realizing, I think, that they do lose a lot of players this way, and I think Clash Royale loses players this way, and so will Dawn of Titans. War Commander, which just came out today, has this instant build where you can get a building and you instantly can use it, and they know that they're giving up some monetization there. They're leaving money on the table, but they think happier players are actually going to stick around longer, and so it's a very sort of interesting decision that they made. And I think you have this sort of like on a slider, and the game developers have to sort of choose. Okay, where do we want to be on this slider? Right?
And I think figuring out the position on that slider that a game should be is kind of where the mobile industry is at right now. And for me, Clash Royale, as great of a game as it is, especially design-wise, it's too far to the one end of that slider for me to truly love it. And my argument here is not for it to not be on the list. My argument here is just I don't want it to be number one, because I'm hesitant to reward a game for so blatantly using the fun pain, which is an old term that was for mobile gaming, free to play gaming, and to see it so blatantly in the game bums me out, and I just don't want to reward it with number one on our list. So I'm happy with it being number 2 after Pokemon Go, but we don't necessarily have to decide that right this second. Why don't we make out the rest of this list, get a couple more games on here, and then we'll put it in order how we think it should be. So right now I have Pokemon Go, Clash Royale, and Dawn of Titans. I'm going to add one while you guys think of anything else you might want to add here. It's called Metro Mini. Have either of you guys played this game?
Nope.
No.
All right, so Metro Mini is this game where you are basically a designer of an underground, subway system, and all these dots pop up on the map where triangles and squares and circles are lining up at these subway stops, and you have to connect them with different lines to enable them to get around the map to their location. It's a puzzle game. It's a real-time puzzle game, and it's one of the it's a clever idea. I really like that mechanic of designing the underground map. At the same time, it's just got this really beautiful style where it looks like, if you imagine like a paper map you would get to understand the New York underground transit system, where it's got those like really bright red lines and the yellow lines and the purple lines connected to circles. It's that exact thing, in terms of its visual aesthetics. And I really like that. It's really appealing, and it makes me want to keep going back, even though the game is very frustrating at times when you feel like you're getting overwhelmed with all these people that need to get to their stops and stuff. And it's also a premium priced app, which I think is rarer and getting more and more rare on mobile. But it's one that I think is worth the price. It's only like $2 or $3. So I would put it on this list, but I'm willing to hear what else you guys might have that you might want to put on. I'm kind of
curious why Dean was earlier not receptive to Super Mario Run being on the list.
Well, I haven't spent my money yet, so I'm just playing these free levels, and it doesn't sort of do some things that I would expect it to do. Like you're constantly moving forward, right? And if I want to go backward, I can't go backward, or at least I haven't figured out how to go backward.
No, you can't go. It's an auto runner. You can't go backwards.
Yeah. So why not? Like, you can in a Mario game. Right? So it's...
Well, Super Mario Brothers, you can go back a little bit, but it stops at a certain point. Mm-hmm. You can only go back like 10 feet.
Yeah. But, some of the games where you can do that, they're more fun, I guess. Right? So... I don't know.
I don't know.
I think of other titles that just seem like they were, a little more innovative. Something like Color Switch. Color Switch got downloaded 130 million times this year, and it just was doing something different where you're just tapping the screen, trying to get a ball from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen, and obstacles in the way, right? And so it was just I almost would rather have seen something like more original from Nintendo than a runner game that I've played before, just with Mario as the character on it.
I kind of get that. I don't think, especially on phones, like a runner is better or worse if you can turn around, right? I think I kind of like that idea that you're moving, and it kind of makes it a bit more about reflexes, right? Like you have that second or two to make the decision if you're going to jump or not, and once you kind of miss it, you miss it, or you have to try again. I think that's fine. I agree that it's not a super innovative game. I think it works better than a lot of the other games like it. I think it controls very well. I think it has that kind of Nintendo production that you don't sometimes you rarely see in a mobile game. But I mean, like I said, I haven't played Color Switch. I kind of have to take your word on that. It already sounds more interesting just from what you're saying on it. But
I sort of see also just some mistakes that Nintendo made communicating about the game. Like, why did so many people wind up outraged that after 3 levels you have to pay $10 for the game? Why were they surprised? Like,
I mean, they're surprised because they don't pay any attention to anything about gaming, and that's the reason Nintendo's making mobile games in the first place, because they want to reach this audience that typically isn't paying attention to games. So even though Nintendo has said over and over the game is $10 in the lead up to the release, most people are just like, oh, there's a Mario game on iOS. I just heard this because my friend was playing it, or there was a big hubbub about it on Twitter. I'll go download it. Oh, it's free to download. This is great. And then they get to level 3 and they're like, oh, I have to pay and I can't play any more levels unless I pay. This is horseshit. And it's just like, okay, well, they're just used to. I think this is an audience, and this is not everyone.
It's an audience that Nintendo's not used to.
Right. Yeah, and it's an audience that won't pay money for games. Like there's a lot of people that have legitimate complaints about the cost of Super Mario Run, but there is an audience of people that is enormous that has never spent any money on gaming and mobile games.
Other people have solved this problem that Nintendo had, which was, for the free people, just show them advertisements. Right?
Yeah, but I don't think they want to. There's no way
version.
Nintendo's going to put ads in the game. No way in hell. And I don't know if it's a problem. Is it a problem?
It's always like an overlooked part of how to monetize a game properly, because there's two audiences. There's ones who will never pay, and
but I think they're just like
pay. And there's 5%. 5% of the people will pay. Why don't you monetize the 95% of other players who want to play your game?
Because the game's probably going to do fine either way, even without the money from ads. And then the game doesn't have ads.
It's not about the money. It's about making those people happy. 95% of the people,
I don't think Nintendo
you
cares.
are not
Nintendo
making
is
them happy.
But Nintendo can make people happy if they reduce the price of Super Mario, the latest 3D platformer for the Wii U, which came out several years ago now. Super Mario World, whatever it was, 3D World, yeah. If they drop the price from $50 to $30 to $20, whatever, but they take years to do that because they're like, pay the money or you just don't get to play the game. That's been their strategy this entire time. I think there's still room for there. Okay, maybe there's not room for that in mobile, but who cares? Like that doesn't hurt the game. It doesn't make the game worse. It only makes the game worse for people that don't want to pay the money, and they're not going to spend money anyhow. And Nintendo doesn't want ads in the game. I don't want ads in the game.
There was another way to do this too, and I forget the name of the monetization company that said this, but had they reduced, they argued that had they reduced the price from $10 to $2, they would have gone from like 1 or 2% conversion of those players to buying to 10%. And you're actually then getting the same amount of money coming in to Nintendo in revenues, but they make 10% of the people happy instead of just 2%. Right?
But they could always reduce the price, and they probably will because of what you're saying. But you can always go down. You can't go back up. And I think they wanted to see what they would get with $10. But this is outside this conversation. I don't know if that necessarily has if it reflects the quality of Super Mario Run and whether or not it should be on this list. Right now, I have Pokemon Go, Clash Royale, Dawn of Titans, Metro Mini, Super Mario Run, and Color Switch. Should we put any more on here before we start cutting stuff off and arranging?
No, I spent most of the year playing this Star Trek mobile game that was like the epitome of a mobile game that I only played because it liked that Star Trek characters were in it. And I don't think that requires consideration.
What did you guys think of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes? That came out in November of last year, but it actually sustained itself through the rankings all through this year.
It seemed to be the most popular of the Star Wars mobile games, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it will be for long. I think this Force Arena game, which is just a Clash Royale clone, which isn't out yet, but it's coming soon. I think it's going to replace it. Galaxy of Heroes, I couldn't really get into. I tried.
That wasn't my thing.
It just didn't register with me. That's the EA one, right?
Yeah, I think it's good for Star Wars fans. Just like the Star Trek game that I knew wasn't really very good. I kind of liked it anyways, in a weird way. I think maybe this game was even maybe better than that. So if you really liked Star Wars and it was fun for you to collect all these heroes, then sure.
So I don't know, Dean. Would you want to put it on this list? Dean, you let me know and I'll add it. And we can figure out if it makes the top 5.
Really, but I'm at the point where I have to get off the call soon.
Okay,
so,
all right. Well,
I guess my vote for this is Clash Royale.
All right. I think Pokemon Go should be number 1.
Well, don't look at me to tie break this crap. Here's the only thing I'll say is that Clash Royale was like the top mobile game this year that you probably would have expected, and Pokemon Go wasn't, right? So that's what makes Pokemon Go more interesting to me.
You guys are always ganging up on me.
I know. I'm sorry, Dean. I feel bad, but I still think you're wrong. I think Pokemon Go is a better mobile game.
Dean, you need to find a sidekick like I have Jeff as my sidekick.
Damn. All right, you're right. Clash Royale. Never mind.
Get Jason back here. Jason probably hates all of this stuff. You probably would have argued for Pokemon Go, to be fair. I think
so too.
So
all right.
saying.
Okay. I think it's gonna be Pokemon Go. All right, Dean. All right,
now we can make it list whatever we want.
Exactly.
Right.
Have a good one, Dean.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Yep. All right, Mike.
What do you want?
I think Super Mario Run should be on the top 5 if you think it.
What is this Dawn of the Titans stuff anyways? Let's just put Color Switch there to make Dean happy and get rid of that. Yeah. How about that?
That's good. All right. Dean is still just clicking away on his computer. Everyone can hear that.
Dean, get off the call.
I know. Just mute yourself in the damn cast.
You can't find the cast window is the problem. He doesn't know where it is.
We have to deal with that old man all the time. All right. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna fix his window real quick, and then, let's just figure out this top 5. So I think Pokemon Go's number 1, and you're gonna agree with me. And then
yes, of course.
Clash Royale number 2 because he was pretty adamant about that.
He's pretty gung-ho about it.
I don't really care about Dawn of Titans.
Get that off of here.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a big game, but I don't want it. I don't think it should be on the list. And then now Super Mario Run, would you put it at 3, 4, or 5?
Look, I haven't played 3 or 5, so.
Okay, well I'm gonna keep Metro Mini at 3, Super Mario Run at 4, and Color Switch at 5. I like that list.
This is my approval pointing at you. Like,
you're clicking and pointing, so that must mean that we did good. We did good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the top 5. Pokemon Go, Clash Royale, Metro Mini, Super Mario Run, Color Switch. Mm-hmm. I like that.
So, cool.
Yeah, let me see here. We were going to do one more, but I think we'll just wait. We'll do that tomorrow, and we'll air it next week. So that's going to be the best new gaming universe. Basically best debut, best new IP or something like that.
That's the one we talk about a lot of things and they pick Overwatch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exciting.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think we could just wrap this up, Mike. I'm going to start saying goodbye. Thanks for everyone for watching. We'll have full posts on these discussions, so you can catch there. If you have complaints, if you have games that you think should be on this list, email us at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. And yeah, Mike, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me at gamesbeat.com, of course. Also, I do the Exploding Barrel podcast with my brother at ebpodcast.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Tolkoto, Tolkoto.
And I am, let's see what you wrote this time. I'm Jeff Grubb Poop, but McFarty's P-Man on Twitter.
Well,
it's getting much more complicated to say. Jeff
How dare
Grubb
you.
poop but fart McFarty's P man. I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. He's messing with me in the podcast rundown document, which is, I think this is going to be an ongoing thing. I actually want to see how far it goes before I just get tired of it. And then you can get me on YouTube, youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. I make videos there every once in a while. And we'll be back. I think we might broadcast the Game of the Year discussion tomorrow. We might not. I might just save it and broadcast it like as a recording next week instead. If you want to catch that though, like us on Facebook and you'll be able to see it when we go live. Until then, we'll be back with a normal episode on Monday and a bunch of other Game of the Year stuff next week. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. We need an outro. It's still just no cats. I think no Deans.
No Deans. Get out of here, Dean, with your
Get out of here,
mobile
Dean.
game I didn't play. How dare you?